When you think about Andy Griffith, it's hard not to immediately associate him with the mythical town of Mayberry and all of its wonderful citizens, Gomer, Aunt Bee, Floyd the barber, Opie, and of course Andy's faithful and wonderfully inept sidekick, Deputy Barney Fife. Barney was played on that show to perfection by Don Knotts, and much has been made over the years about the enduring, lifelong friendship that these two actors had. However, in the mid-'80s, as Andy Griffith was about to embark on a new television project called Matlock, remember that one, anyone? He confessed to UPI journalist Mark Schwed that he'd had an extremely disturbing and messed up nightmare that chilled him to his very core. During that interview, Andy explained that the nightmare had occurred the night before he was about to begin filming a television movie called Pray for the Wildcats, where he would play a character who was very sinister and very much the opposite of the type of roles that people were used to seeing Andy take on. Like I said, in this movie, Andy is not a nice feller. In fact, he is cast as a sociopathic business executive who coerces a team of advertising agency employees to embark on a dangerous dirt bike trip to the Baja California desert in order to compete for his business. So you get it, a huge departure for Mr. Griffith. The first scene that Andy was to film was one where he performed a particularly despicable act, and it would appear that as Andy worried about that performance, whether or not he could come across as believable or not, his mind went to some pretty darn dark places to prepare. Some folks call it method acting. Based on everything I've read, truthfully, I don't think it was a place in his head where Andy really wanted to go. So getting back to that article, in it, Andy said that he couldn't believe what took place. It was a truly messed up nightmare and had the most horrible kind of ending because in it, Andy killed the dearest of his friends. Yep, Don Knotts was Andy's victim. When Andy woke up, he couldn't shake the awful feeling that he had. It felt so real, so absolutely terrible. It was so awful that he physically felt ill. At that moment, Andy knew whose voice he needed to hear to feel better. So he got on the phone and tried to call his old friend. Over and over he called Don's number. Unfortunately, there was no answer. Desperate to find some sort of relief, any sort of relief, Andy reached out to another friend who also happened to be a therapist. And together, the two of them worked through the dream and determined that this was Andy's way of trying to leave those iconic characters from Mayberry far behind. Temporarily relieved, Andy was able to ace that scene and complete the movie, which did in fact end up being a turning point for his career. And of course, later on, Andy was able to talk to Don about that dream as well. And as we all know, their friendship endured. Andy loved Don like a brother. And that meant that as Matlock became a breakout hit for NBC and Andy, he was able to find an opportunity for Don to appear in a recurring role on that show as well. It would turn out that Andy's messed up nightmare, if anything, strengthened their friendship, one that would see Andy right there by Don's side when he passed away in 2006. You know, you can watch Pray for the Wildcats right here on YouTube. Yeah, this is a magical place, people. Anything you want to watch, it's pretty much here. Not sure if it's going to be around forever, though, but it is right now, and it's definitely worth checking out if you think you might enjoy watching Andy play a character that is a complete 180-degree departure from that friendly sheriff in Mayberry, North Carolina. Another movie that is well worth watching is the 1957 Elia Kazan film titled A Face in the Crowd. Talk about a movie that was way ahead of its time. This one was it. If you're expecting good old Sheriff Andy here, well, you're in for quite a bit of a shock. But in a good way. Hey, here's another video that I think you're really going to like. Go ahead and click on it. I'm mostly done here. But before you go, let me just say thank you so much for watching.